What I've got for you today is little Halloween treat bags that we're going to make out of paper. There are two different files that I'm going to give to you. One, you'll be able to use your Maker machine and the perforation blade to do this cute little pull tab that opens up the bag. If you don't have the perforation blade yet, or if you have an Explorer machine, so you're going to be using just the fine point blade, I have a separate file you'll be able to upload and make the same project. You're also going to get these two little decorative doodle pieces. I have a few more Halloween designs that you can go pick up from my blog so that you can just swap up your paper colors and patterns and make some for some different holidays too. So I'm going to show you a few supplies here and then we're going to jump into Design Space. Here are the supplies I'll be using to make these treat boxes. White cardstock, black and white scrapbook paper, neon paper, Barely Arts glue, the perforation blade, a scoring stylus, Cricut, pen or marker, and then I'll also be using my blue mat. I'm going to turn on my Maker machine and then just go ahead and start a new project in Design Space. Click Upload and then go to the place on your computer where you have saved the files. So the first thing that you'll upload is the Doodles SVG. Click Upload and then Upload Image again. And then now here's where you're going to just upload one of these files depending on the machine that you're using. If you're using an Explorer or a Maker machine just with the fine point blade, then choose this SVG that says Explore. If you're going to use the Maker and the perforation wheel like I'm doing, then you'll upload the Maker SVG. And then this was something that, I don't know if it was just a little glitch this day that I was making the video or something else, but I couldn't see everything that I had just uploaded. So I just went here and clicked View All. And then everything that I've uploaded into Design Space shows up there, and I was able to see the files that I needed. And so you're going to add in the little doodles and then whichever machine file you're going to be using. So you'll click Add them to Canvas, and then over here you can just go back to Canvas and those will all show up and they will come in at the correct sizes. So we need to make just a couple of changes in the file before we go and cut it out. So first I'll show you if you are using the file labeled for the Explore machine, so you're just using the fine point blade, go ahead and delete the layer that has the name on it. So this grouping is all these small dashed cut lines that's going to basically be the perforated part. And those are already set to cut lines, and so we can move on to the next grouping of lines. These are all the fold lines, so you're going to change it to Score, then select everything, so you've got the background layer, the score lines, and the cut lines, and attach those together. All right, and I'm going to show you how to work with the file for the Maker using the perforation blade. So you'll ungroup everything and then delete the name. For this section of lines, change it to Perforate. And then for this section of lines, change it to Score. And just like before, select all of the lines and the background and click Attach. Then here's our little decoration file. So ungroup that. And then if you click on this layer of the doodles and change it to pen, then that's where the marker will draw. Same thing, you've got the outline of the cat, and you can kind of double check, click on the outline cut, and if you hide that, then everything else is going to be the pen line. And then take each of those and attach. That way the pen will draw the image and then the Cricut will cut around the outline of that. All right, now we're ready to make it. So I'm going to cut these out of white paper. I had them show up in gray just so they'd be a little easier to see in Design Space. And then you kind of double check that everything else is laid out the way that I want to. I don't have any score lines or draw lines that have been put on a different mat. So click continue. It will connect up with my Bluetooth, and then I'm using a heavy cardstock here, so it's going to tell me to put in my pen. And so you take the cap off, open up the clamp, press the pen down while pushing up on the clamp from underneath, and then lock that into place. Press the flashing load button. And then here you have it drawing all of the lines, and then it will cut the outline. Now back in Design Space, we'll cut the bag. Since I am using scrapbook paper and not cardstock, I went and just did a search for paper, and this 24-pound copy paper was the right setting for what I was using. I also need to edit the tools because I'm using a scoring stylus and not a scoring wheel. So the stylus goes in the same way as the pen does, and then I'm going to take out the regular blade and put in the perforation blade. Load in the paper on the mat, and it's going to first do all of the score lines, and so that will help us fold up our treat bag really easily later. And then it will do the 2 lines for the perforated pull tab. While the perforation blade and the scoring stylus do work on thicker cardstock, I found that using scrapbook paper was easier to work with. All the folds come together really nicely, and sometimes doing that process with a thicker cardstock can just be a little more difficult. Now in Design Space, it's going to tell you to put the fine point blade back in. So don't unload the mat here, just take out that perforation blade, put the regular blade back in, and then you'll press the cut button again, and it will do the outline cut for the treat bag. Unload the mat and peel that paper cut gently away from the mat and set it off to the side. Our last cut is going to be the little colored strip and the small piece for the pull tab. Looking at the back side of this paper, you can see where all those score lines are. So now we're just going to fold in all of the corners of the bag. Next, we have some score lines that are going to be on the sides of the bag that help it fold up easier, kind of like how a lunch bag has the folds in on the side. So just kind of pinch it like this until you get down to the 2 triangle score lines. And then as you kind of pinch those together, you don't add any extra creases that you don't want. And again, this part is easier to do on scrapbook paper than it is on thick cardstock. Then fold up each of the tabs that will fold in to be the bottom of the bag later. There's one more very narrow score line on the far right side, and that's going to help us line up the glue when we're gluing the back of the bag together. And then finally, there's one more score line at the top, and just make sure that you're folding the score line and not farther down where the perforation lines are. All right, so here's our perforated lines, and we're going to take an X-Acto knife and just cut on the fold line between the top and the bottom perforated lines. That way we can slide in our little pull tab and glue that into place. So you want to double check that enough of it is sticking out from the front. Just going to flip it to the other side and add just a little bit of glue. Then flip it back over and press it down. Now it's glued to the back side of that perforated section, so that when you pull on the orange part, the rest of it will tear across. Before we glue the whole treat bag together, we're going to add the decoration on the front. This little strip fits exactly between the two front score lines. And then this piece goes right in the center of that. Now we're going to use that score line as a guide to just glue the very end of this side of the paper. You don't want any glue to cross over the folded line. Then you can lay this part flat and then fold over the other side. It should line up perfectly, and you can just press that glue down until it's stuck together. Now we can fold in and glue the bottom of the bag. Start with the rectangle piece and then glue the side pieces over. At this point, it's nice to set it down on the table and then press in with something to make sure that that's going to get glued together down at the bottom. The bag's really too small to stick a whole hand down in, so I'm just using the cap of my craft knife to just kind of make sure there's some pressure against there and that gets glued down, and then we'll fold over the last flap and glue that as well. All right, so these bags are now ready to fill, and you need to put the candy or treats or surprise in before you seal the rest of the bag. So if you wanted to, you could make a bunch of these ahead of time and then add the candy later. You're just gonna fill it up so that you can still pinch everything together at the top. So add some glue to the top inside of the bag. Make sure that you don't go farther than the little colored pull tab, because you need that to not get glued to the back. So press this down until the glue dries, or you can set something on it or use some little fabric clips to hold that tight. Then you're going to open up the two side creases and put a little bit of glue in there so that that is glued down. Then you'll use that fold line that we scored before, and you'll fold the top of that towards the back of the bag. Add another line of glue and pinch that closed until it is secure. Then when the bags are ready to be opened, you just grab the little colored tab and peel across the front, and that opens up the bag and you can get whatever is inside. I hope you learned something new and got some fun ideas for how you can decorate these for Halloween or for other holidays as well. And of course, let me know if you have any questions. If you are just getting started with using the perforation blade, or you don't have one yet because you don't really know what you would want to make with it, I have several perforation blade specific files for sale in my Etsy shop. So make sure you go check out SVGs in the Rain and look for the perforation blade files. Thanks again for watching my class, and I will see you around the internet.